I see that everyone is kind of trickling in. Some people, a couple more people are trickling in. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to what typically is a Workforce Wednesday webinar. But today we have a special training. So it's a little bit more closed. It's going to be very interactive. We have a smaller audience today, and participation is going to be very heavy. So we're excited for this more interactive training. We are partnering with the Chicago Jobs Council. And so we're excited to be partnering with them and their awesome trainer today, Julia Evans. Before we get started with CJC and Julia, I'm going to go over some housekeeping items. So my name is Kirsten Bayer, and I am with the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support at Illinois State University. We are housed in the Educational Administration and Foundations Department within the School of Education at ISU, and our center has been around since 1977. And we partner with DCEO to provide professional development. We have a WIOA Professional Development Committee, and that is who has facilitated and is partnering with CJC to put on this training today. Couple of housekeeping items. Today's training is going to be recorded, but there's going to be opportunity for breakout sessions and for that full immersive participation. And during those breakout sessions, we will be pausing the recording. So anything that you share during those participation time periods during the breakouts will not be recorded. So I just want to disclaimer that we're just recording the information that Julia is presenting today. So the recording will not be, it will be paused. It will not be going anytime that you have the option to share. So want to make sure that that's fully transparent. Anything that you share that's vulnerable or anything like that will not be recorded. We also have closed captioning on today for accessibility reasons. And if you would like to turn that on for accessibility reasons, you do have that option. Breakout rooms in Zoom do not have closed captioning. So if you do need closed captioning for accessibility to participate today, please private message me in the chat. I'll go ahead and make sure that everyone can message everyone in the chat here. And please private message me and we will make sure that we facilitate a breakout room in this main Zoom room. So that way you are able to have closed captioning. So please go ahead and private message me if you do need closed captioning for accessibility reasons. And then since the information from today is being recorded, we will be able to send that out along with the resources today. I do know that Kate from CJC went ahead and emailed everyone that's on today's training, the Google Drive, which I can also post in the chat here momentarily, with all the resources from today. So you will have that at your fingertips. And then if you need anything, any kind of tech support or have any questions about today's training, feel free to message me, reach out to me, and I'm happy to help you. And then we also have the second training on this topic, which you all are already registered for, next Wednesday, the 28th. So it'll be a continuation of today. So just want to put a plug in for that. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Kate from CJC. And she can take it away.
Thank you so much, Kirsten. Again, my name is Kate Gannon. I'm a program manager with the Chicago Jobs Council. And we're really happy to be partnering with the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support and with DCEO for this motivational interviewing training that's a part of the Workforce Wednesdays. Like Kirsten said, we will have opportunities for engagement throughout the training. So please feel free to utilize the chat. There will be several points where folks will be invited to come off mute and share. And we do encourage folks to have their cameras on in their breakout rooms as much as possible. So just a little background about Chicago Jobs Council. We are a workforce intermediary organization that keeps job seekers at the center of all that we do. CJC advocates for job seekers by researching current pressing matters in the field, developing recommendations, and sharing them broadly to create systemic change. We also build capacity for the workforce development field by developing curriculum that's offered through trainings, cohort learning, and leadership academies based on our research of best practices. We offer trainings that are open for anybody to enroll in on our website, as well as customized trainings like the one we're participating in today. CJC also influences city, state, and federal policies related to increasing funding for our public workforce system, creating equitable pathways, and eliminating barriers to employment. If folks have any questions about CJC and the work we do, feel free to message me and we'll stay on for a little bit at the end for questions as well. So I'd like to introduce our facilitator for today's training, Julia Evans. Julia is a licensed clinical social worker and a certified drug and alcohol counselor, and she's the founder and owner of Soundview Therapy Group, PLLC. She's provided training services in motivational interviewing since 2015. Julia received her master's in social work at the University of Chicago with a specialty in addiction settings. She has experience working in addiction settings, residential treatment, and providing group and individual therapy in a variety of milieus. She currently provides individual psychotherapy to adults in her practice. Her professional areas of interest include utilizing motivational interviewing, mindfulness, and a variety of behavioral skills techniques in working with those who suffer with addiction, anxiety, and mood disorders. Julia has led trainings for a variety of organizations around Chicago, including the Chicago Jobs Council, Bridge Communities, Eating Recovery Center, the Ruth M. Rothstein Core Center, Year Up Chicago, and Growing Home, Inc. So we're really thrilled to have Julia with us today to share her skills and experience and knowledge. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Julia.
All right. Thank you so much, Kate and Kirsten. Good morning, everyone. Very excited to be with you this week and next week to talk about one of my favorite topics, motivational interviewing. Let's go ahead and get started. So we've already done a lot of intro stuff, so I'll skip some of this. Take breaks as needed. I recognize that this is everyone's work day today. Please just let us know if you're not able to join into a breakout room so that we can kind of facilitate this on our back end. Please use the chat and hand raising function. I like to think of myself as a very interruptible person. It is one of my better qualities. The most important thing about this training is that we make it applicable to you and the work that you do. I'm a private practice therapist. I've worked with CJC for quite a long time and with a lot of job coaches and employment coaches and things like that. With that being said, I don't know the ins and outs of your job like you do. So please bring that expertise into our session today, so that we can make motivational interviewing and this training specifically as applicable to your work as possible. You can either put it into the chat or just unmute yourself. Like I said, I'm very interruptible. Today is going to be about half lecture, and then because the sound of my voice is not all that great, mostly interactive, half interactive. You're going to be going into breakout rooms. I'm going to be asking you to unmute yourselves. The best way to learn motivational interviewing is by practicing it. We are going to take some breaks for question and answer. But with that being said, if you have a question in your brain and you think you might lose it, don't wait for me to ask for questions. Confidentiality. I recognize that today is being recorded except for the breakout rooms, like Kirsten said, but I do just ask that if you were in the breakout room and I say, hey, how was everyone's experience in the breakout room? Please only share your experience of being in the breakout room versus someone else's personal information that they may have shared within the breakout room. I know that everyone here is really good at confidentiality, so not so worried about that. That's pretty much it in terms of housekeeping. I'm excited to be here today. So I'm really excited to chat with you about this topic, specifically as it relates to helping job seekers. So for today's training objective, we're going to learn the core principles and skills of motivational interviewing. Experiential activities that we're going to practice are engaging participants in brief conversations. So the number one piece of feedback that I often get when I'm doing trainings like this is, yeah, Julia, this is all great, but I don't have time for a 3-hour heart-to-heart with every client or every participant that I work with. Got really good news for you then, right? Because I know that most people in our types of positions are understaffed and overworked in terms of our caseload of who we're working with. So in motivational interviewing, we're talking about very brief conversations. The research shows that motivational interviewing can be used in a 60 to 90-second interaction, which is great news for us because I know we're all busy. We're going to be strengthening the intrinsic motivation of your participants or your clients. I'll give you all a disclaimer right now. I use the word client because that's the language in my day-to-day work. For you, it might be your participant or your client, or whatever verbiage you use. We're going to be helping increase participant buy-in, right? We all know that change happens much stronger when a person has their own buy-in versus us trying to force it. And so motivational interviewing really helps with that. And then addressing any current and potential barriers to success. The thing about motivational interviewing is we're not avoiding having the hard conversation. All right, so motivational interviewing, why do we use it? Motivational interviewing was invented by Bill Miller and Stephen Rolnick out in New Mexico when they were first working with clients struggling with substance abuse. That's kind of how it first got created, for lack of a better word. From there, they started doing a lot of research and found, oh, this doesn't just work with people struggling with substance use. It actually works with the incarcerated population, the population who have chronic health issues, like they just got diagnosed with diabetes, or they had a stroke and they need to change their lifestyle. It works with school systems, with hospital systems, with people coming out of incarceration, with people within the parole system, and with job seekers. So it works across multiple contexts. It's cross-cultural. It's really effective in brief interventions. And motivational interviewing is really used when someone is feeling kind of ambivalent or unsure about change. That's really when we want to use motivational interviewing. They both want to make the change, but they don't want to make the change. They have reasons for changing and they have reasons not for changing, aka the human experience. It also really benefits systematically marginalized clients. Why is that? Motivational interviewing is asking for your client or your participant to be the expert in their own values, their own life, and what they want out of their goals, right? That's oftentimes something that marginalized clients get bypassed from, right? So I'll give you an example. I was listening to an interview with a woman, and she was doing some aid work out in Afghanistan, and she was bringing electricity to rural areas for these Afghan families. And she was talking with these mothers, and these mothers are taking care of the kids all day long. And she said, and they had just opened up schools for the kids in these rural areas. And she had just gotten them electricity in their house. And, she said, and this is an American woman, oh my gosh, are you so excited you have electricity? Now your kids can read in the dark and they're going to be able to learn so much faster. And these Afghan women said, that's great. If you had asked us, we would have told you that a fan would have been better. And she said, a fan? Well, first of all, that would have been much easier. Wish I would have asked you. Second of all, why a fan? She said, well, and the Afghan woman responded, well, if you had asked us, we would have told you that during the day, it can get up to, 100 degrees or 110 degrees inside of our homes. And so no matter how bright it is, our kids can't read because they're too hot. They're too hot to study or to concentrate. And there, for her, that was a very pivotal moment in the way that she engaged with, aid and helping other marginalized communities. Oh, let me ask them what they need. Let me ask them their ideas for what kind of change, not imposing my own view, right? And that's very motivationally interviewing adherent. Hey, what do you think you need in order to make this change? Electricity was great. It was a lovely thought with the best of intentions, and it wasn't done with malice. And it would have been a whole lot easier if she had taken 30 seconds and had a motivational interviewing conversation ahead of time and said, hey, we want to support you and your kids getting education here. What do you think you need inside of the home for that? A fan. That would have been much easier, right? And that's what I mean when I say it's taking a step back and it's putting the client in both an expert role as well as you being in an expert role of providing the services that you provide. Okay, so I'm going to just sit in silence for a few moments here, and I'm going to invite folks to throw into the chat, type into the chat, what do you already know about motivational interviewing, if anything? Okay, Lizbeth says this is new to them. This is great. I love when it's new. New to Corey as well. Love it. Okay. So let's take a step back and define motivational interviewing. Okay, Gianni says, I'll be honest and say I've heard of it before, but don't know much about it. Okay. So motivational interviewing this is kind of the most succinct definition. Yes, Rachel Bird, you are absolutely correct. Empathy and autonomy are huge parts of it. So motivational interviewing is a collaborative conversational style that strengthens a person's own motivation for commitment and change. Motivational interviewing, the word interviewing is very confusing. Now, I've met Bill Miller before, and as I was shaking his hand and saying, thank you so much for inventing this thing, there was this teeny tiny little part of me that said, and why are we calling it interviewing? Because it's not an interview at all. It's a conversation. It's a conversation. It's a way of being with someone. In the way of being with someone where we strengthen their own motivation for commitment and change. When you are working with your clients, we often have a short period of time with them. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year, maybe it's 3 sessions or 3 meetings, for lack of a better word, right? So what your goal is, and what my goal is with my clients when I meet with them on that couch right there, is that we're strengthening their own motivation for change. So when we're not with them, they're able to sustain that motivation outside of our sessions to carry it with them past our work together. And Sharon Smith said, what I understand is you must let the client reveal their needs so you can address. Yes, absolutely. You're letting the client be the expert of what they need. So the guiding beliefs of motivational interviewing is that empathy and accountability equal motivational interviewing. Now, I come from a social work background. With that being said, I'd like to think I lead with a lot of empathy, but I don't just lead with empathy when I'm helping my clients, right? I work with a lot of people in early recovery from substance abuse and really heavy addiction. And yes, I have empathy for my clients. It is a disease. They are working very hard, and I hold them accountable for doing what they need to do in order to make the changes that they've identified they want to make, right? So it's the balance of those two things. If we lean too heavy on just the accountability, then we are just another person telling them what to do in their life, and who needs any more of that? If we are just leading too much on the empathy side, sure, they feel warm and fuzzy with us, but we're not really helping them get anywhere. So we have to hold the two of these together in a really nice, delicate balance that we're going to talk about today. What is that balance? How do we achieve that balance? With that, what we say and when we say it makes a huge difference in our lives, right? So talking about positive change with someone who cares about us makes an impact. I don't know about you, but I often only share vulnerable things or things that I'm feeling I kind of want to change, but I'm feeling a little nervous about it. And God, can I trust this person to say it out loud to them? I only say that around people that I know really care for me, that I know are rooting for me or that are on my team, right? That's who we want to become for your clients. We want to be the person that, let's say we've got a big dream of a job that we want to have, or we want to take a little bit of a reach here, or for our whole life, everyone has been telling us, you can't keep a job. There's no way you could get a job in X, Y, or Z thing, right? And I want to do it. I want to try, right? I want to go for that certification. I want to get that job that also has that training program attached to it. I want benefits, right? I want benefits. Okay. We want to be the type of person that when a client has that, just that teeny tiny inkling in their head, they feel safe enough to tell us, even if it's just a 10% dream, that they feel safe sharing that with us so that we can help them become a 15% dream and then a 25% dream and grow and grow and grow it. So that's who we want to be. That's what we call the spirit of motivational interviewing. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into our first activity. This is going to be a guided exercise where I'm going to be speaking to you. You're going to be closing your eyes and just doing a guided visualization, imagining someone in your life. It's going to last for about 3 minutes. You can either close your eyes or adopt a soft gaze onto the floor and really just help you connect with maybe some of who those people have been with in your life. So when you feel ready, go ahead and take a couple of deep breaths. And either start to close your eyes or adopt a soft gaze onto a non-moving object in your space. And I want you to imagine someone in your life that once they came into your life, they've always been there for you. It could be a parent or a spouse, a sibling, a friend, a mentor, a teacher, a coworker. This is the person that they've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and they've always rooted for you. In your difficult moments, they have met you with compassion and accountability. They have seen you in your difficult moments and not shied away from you, but rather stood beside you. They have cheered you on with selfless love in your moments of winning. They have seen your potential. They have stood by you through it all. They have quietly or loudly cheered you on. They have given you feedback even when it was difficult because they loved you. Imagine that person walking up to you and greeting you. Notice what you feel in your body. Notice what it feels like to imagine them in your mind's eye. Maybe notice them shaking your hand, putting their hand on your shoulder, or maybe even hugging you if that's appropriate. I want you to think of the qualities that this person has to be your someone special, your trusted influence. What is it about this person that's making you think of them? Maybe it's been 5 minutes, maybe it's been 15 years since you've seen this person. What is it about them that makes them come to your mind's eye? Notice what it's like being with them. When you feel ready, go ahead and return to our room, our virtual room. And you're now going to be invited to go into breakout rooms for, what did we say, about 8 minutes, I think. And you'll be in breakout rooms with a few other people. And what I'd like for you to do in your breakout rooms is to answer these questions. How did this person make you feel? Introduce yourself to your breakout room. Share, oh, my special someone is my aunt, or my special someone is my first supervisor, or whoever it was. What made them different? How did they make you feel? What qualities did they have? What characteristics did they have? And then after 8 minutes, we're going to come together and we're going to make kind of a master list of all of the qualities and see what's similar and see what's different. So how many breakout rooms will we have?
We'll have 4 breakout rooms that have about 3 to 4 people in each of them.
Perfect. So if every breakout room could select a spokesperson, Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you any difficult questions. But a spokesperson who, once we come back together after 8 minutes, will just kind of share what those qualities were from your breakout room group. So before we get into our breakout rooms, what questions do folks have? Is everything clear? Okay, great. We'll go ahead and split folks into breakout rooms. Please accept the
Oh no, it just pulled.
willing to be our. Oh, perfect. We're back on recording. Who would be willing to share from the first breakout room or any breakout room? What were some of the qualities that you had that you noticed of your special someone? And just feel free to unmute yourself.
I'll go if no one else is. So, our group talked about really honesty was a big one, even if it's, we said brutal, but more constructive honesty, and not being afraid to, tell us, you know what, maybe there's another way to look at things. So offering a different perspective of things for us, and also being people who are non-judgmental of us. Like we knew that they would be a safe person because they wouldn't judge us for whether we did something questionable or not. And then being a calming force and positive.
Thank you so much, Corey. Yeah, so that brutal honesty, or that forthright honesty, maybe we'll call it, right? When we meet that person, they don't start off with brutal honesty or that forthright honesty, right? They kind of have to earn the ability with their calming presence, their positivity, their non-judgmentalness, so that we feel ready or we feel open or receptive to their honesty, right? That's our goal in motivational interviewing, is to get such a trusted, open, non-judgmental, accepting, calming, positive foundation with our participants or with our clients, so that when we do give them the brutal honesty, none of you are brutal, the forthright honesty, or when we do have some conversations with them about their job search process or what they need to be doing to get different results, that might be a harder conversation for them to hear, they are much more receptive to hearing it, right? We all have those people in our lives that when they give us feedback, we say, yeah, sure thing, thanks a lot. And then we have those other people that when they give us honest feedback, we have such a solid foundation with them that we say, okay, that was hard to hear, but I'm willing to hear it because it's coming from you. That's what we are doing in motivational interviewing. So thank you so much, Corey, and your entire breakout room. What about other breakout rooms? What qualities did you have from your special someone?
I can go next. This is Gianni.
Thanks, Gianni.
So some of the qualities that we discussed, we talked about consistency, someone who's supportive, someone who has good intentions and wants the best for us. We also talked about our special someones being patient, kind, someone you're able to have those really difficult conversations with, and people who are selfless. And empathetic. And then we talked about sisters and who have that best friend relationship, and that they can, talk about anything and no matter what, always help each other out.
Thank you so much, Gianni. Yes, the consistency, the patience, the kindness, the ability, but also to have some of those hard conversations, to be able to talk about the uncomfortable things, right? Because you've earned that bond and that trust. Thank you so much. What about from other breakout rooms? We have 2 more.
I'll go next. My name is Lartanja. And
Thank you.
some of the qualities was unconditional love, non-judgmental, very supportive through the ups and downs, someone who was, remember everything. Someone who was just there when you needed them the most. And yeah, that's about all I can think of right now.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lartanja. You know what I love about what you said is someone who's just there. Sometimes when we can, us human beings, we can overcomplicate things. I'm the worst at that. When we see someone who's in need, we think, I have to solve their problems. I have to know the most, do the most, be the most. But really what that person needs is for us to just be there, to witness them, to witness their struggle, to witness their hard effort, to witness their work, to witness that this is difficult and they're trying, to be a witness. I love that that was a part of it, of just being there. Thank you so much, Lartanja. All right, final spokesperson.
This is Lindsay. I think our group had a little bit of audio issues, but basically what the takeaway was, accepting, non-judgmental, trust, kind of just that genuine care and compassion and support, even though you don't necessarily have to be on the same page. Were kind of some of the key takeaways.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. Yeah, I love that. You can be supportive without having to always be in lockstep, right? Which I think is really important. So thank you so much. I hope that this was helpful for all of you. As we are talking about the real nuts and bolts of motivational interviewing, what are the skills and the tools and how do I do it and what do I say? I want you to think of what we call the spirit of motivational interviewing as almost like the beating heart that's going to power all of these skills, right? That this is the mindset that we want to go into. If we can be someone special, we are going to be so much more effective at doing our jobs and helping people successfully get to where they want to be in terms of job seeking or really any behavior change. Look, I'm not here to tell you how to do your job. Y'all are experts at your job. What my job is to help you so that when you are supporting your clients or your participants, they are so open and receptive to the skills that you are giving them and the support that you're giving them versus being closed off. Really, right? Does that make sense? So really what my job is to help you really build that solid foundation with them so that when you get to the meat and potatoes of your work, your participants are willing, they are open, they're super motivated, they can have sustained behavior change, and they trust you because y'all are trustworthy. And a lot of our clients have experienced disappointment, they've experienced trauma. It's hard for them to trust helpers, right? And so we want to be different for them in a positive way. So the spirit of MI is all about collaboration, not confrontation. We are working with our clients. Whenever I see a new client in my practice, I always say, look, you're the expert of your history. You're the expert of what you want your life to look like. What my job is to help you get there in a better way, right? So I'm not confronting my clients, I'm working with them. It's evoking their own motivation instead of imposing our own view, right? So the example that I give is, I work with a lot of clients who are in early recovery from substance use behaviors. Now, what happens is a lot of clients will go to treatment and they will pick up smoking cigarettes, right? Because they have stopped drinking and stopped using other substances. And then they will come to me and they will say, oh yeah, and I want to stop smoking cigarettes. My office is on the second floor. So if I am imposing my own view, I might be sitting in my chair saying, that's so great. This is so good for your health. I'm so glad you want to quit smoking cigarettes. You're going to climb that second floor to get to my office and you're not going to be out of breath and you're going to live for 20 years longer. And I'm so excited for you. Your health is going to be amazing. Your lungs are going to be clear. And they're thinking, okay, Julia, that's great, but I really don't want to spend that $50 a week. That's valid too. And if I was practicing motivational interviewing, and if I was being curious about their own motivation versus my own view of why it might be helpful for them to stop smoking, I could get a lot further. Because when they're having a hard time quitting, and I'm talking about climbing a flight of stairs without being out of breath, and they're thinking, I don't really care about that, or I'm not out of breath when I climb that stairs, it's a huge missed opportunity for me. Versus if I say, gosh, Jan, how much money have you saved so far? And what have you been able to do with that? That's going to help them sustain their behavior change. But first, I have to take a step back and recognize, when am I imposing my own view versus evoking their own motivation? It's respecting their autonomy and letting go of our authority. This can be a little bit uncomfortable for folks. This is not me saying that you have no authority in your job. It just means that when we are having these types of conversations, where we're trying to understand where clients are coming from, what their own motivation is, their why, that's when we let go of our authority. Because we're not the authority over their lives or what their life should look like or what their goals should be. That's on them, right? It's expressing empathy that change is hard and vulnerable and scary, period. And when we change easy things, we just do it and we don't have to think about it and we don't have to talk about it. And the changes that your clients and my clients are making are really hard, scary, vulnerable changes. And we're going to express a lot of empathy that it's hard. And we're not going to pretend like it's not hard. And we're not going to pretend like there's not conflict. It's supporting self-efficacy. Your clients are smart. My clients are smart. They are able to do this. We are going to support them in their ability to make change in their life. We are supporting their intelligence, their self-efficacy, their ability to make change in their own life. It's developing discrepancy between what's working for them now, what's not working for them now, and what they want their life to look like, right? And then it's rolling with resistance. Like I said before, change is really hard and change is really vulnerable. You might be working with adults who maybe have feelings of a little bit of guilt or shame, like, I should have this by now. I should know how to be in the employment world. I should know how to fill out a resume. I should understand this. I should. There's a lot sometimes of vulnerability in standing or sitting in front of another adult saying, I feel like I should know how to do this thing and I don't. And I feel a certain type of way about that. I have a lot of respect for my clients who are willing to say, I feel like I should know how to do this adult thing and I don't. And I'm saying it out loud so I can change it. That's hard. I have so much respect for all of my clients who are willing to talk about things that they maybe have feelings of resistance or shame around, right? That's the hard stuff. We're not going to pretend like that resistance doesn't exist. Because the minute we start pretending that that resistance doesn't exist, that's the minute we lose our clients. We lose their trust. We lose being their special someone. Yeah, change is hard. I get it. And you can do hard things. Okay. Motivational interviewing is not tricking people. It's not one specific technique. It's a way of being with people. It's not a decisional balance, equally weighing pros and cons. It's very strategic. It's not an assessment. It's not easy to learn. It's simple, but not easy to learn. It's not a panacea for every challenge, right? So it's not a silver bullet. So for example, I am a mandated reporter. If a client comes in endorsing harm to themselves or others, or endorsing some sort of harm to a child or a senior, that's not the time for motivational interviewing, right? That's the time to put on a different hat. The time when we use motivational interviewing is when someone is feeling ambivalent or unsure about making a change, and we're having a conversation to help them resolve that ambivalence. Okay, let's talk about key definitions. We're going to talk about key definitions, and then we're going to take a 5-minute break. So if you guys can hang with me for your last 5 minutes here, we will be taking a 5-minute break in about 5 minutes. So let's talk about sustain and change talk. Sustain talk is any statement against change, right? I don't want to get a job. I don't want to fill this out. I can't do this. That's stupid. That's a bad idea. That's all sustain talk. Any statement against change. I'm fine where I am. I don't need work. That's all sustain talk. That's statements against change. Before you took this training, you might be very, very tempted to say, no, let me convince you of all of the reasons why that's wrong. But after you take that training, you're not going to take that bait anymore, and it's going to be beautiful. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Change talk is spoken words in favor of change. It can be anything as concrete as I need to find work. I have to have stable housing. And in order to do that, I need to get a job. I want to open up a savings account. Or it could be things like, I can't keep living like this, right? Kind of really more vague statements, right? So that's change talk and sustain talk. And as Kate said, there is a glossary of key terms in the resource folder. But it's really important that we get these definitions just really solid for our training today. What questions do you have? Does this make sense? Okay. And then ambivalence. Ambivalence is feeling two ways about one thing. I both want to change and I don't want to change. There's reasons for me changing and there's reasons not for me changing. I feel ambivalent about it. I both know I should change this behavior, but there's reasons why I don't want to. We all have ambivalence. If you have a pulse, you have ambivalence. Congratulations. And I know everyone has a pulse because you all went into a breakout room. So you can't trick me there. We are not going to shy away from ambivalence with our clients. Of course, our clients are going to be ambivalent about the things we are asking them to do and change because it is hard and scary. I invite you to think about something in your life that a behavior that you both kind of know you really need, should change, but there's also reasons not to change. You feel ambivalent about it. For me, I have a 2-year-old son and I work. And so for me, I know I am a more pleasant, present member of my family when I go to bed by 10:30 every night, because my son wakes up between 5:30 and 6 every morning. Bless him. He's ready to play. And with that being said, I work all day and then I go home and I take care of my kid and spend time with my family, which I love. And he goes to bed at 8. And I do this thing called revenge bedtime. Has anyone ever heard of that? Where you, I won't speak for you, I stay up too late eating cereal and watching Netflix and just kind of doing me time. It's kind of the only time of day that I get. And so I both know that I am a more pleasant, present person to be around the next morning when I go to bed by 10:30. And I really like that time at the end of the day. I'm ambivalent about it. There's reasons for changing. There's reasons for not changing. And at the end of the day, just go to bed by 10:30. It makes the whole train run on time and smoother the next day, right? But it's hard. Now, I'm talking about a pretty privileged problem here. I'm talking about some really cushy problem. Let's think about the ambivalence that we're asking our clients or our participants to face. Big, capital P problems, vulnerable problems, things that we are asking them to do that may sacrifice relationships with themselves and with others, that might be breaking generational cycles, that might be saying, gosh, if I make this decision, I'm going to end certain relationships, or certain relationships will always change, or I don't know if I can do this, even though I know I should, right? I just want us to take a minute to step back and realize what we're asking of our clients and the ambivalence that they might feel in the work that we're doing with them. And have just some respect for it, right? To empathize with it. Any behavior change that is difficult, there is going to be ambivalence. And in motivational interviewing, we're not going to pretend like that ambivalence doesn't exist. We're going to face it head on. We're going to talk about it. We're going to accept it. Doesn't mean we're going to give into it. Doesn't mean that I'm going to say, well, I guess I'm going to bed at 11:30 every night. Nope. I'm going to be kind to myself and as much as I can hold myself accountable. That's what we're going to do with our clients and our participants. So we're going to go into a 5-minute break now. It's 10:56, so we will return at 11:01 and get started for the second half of our training today. Perfect, we're recording again. What questions do we have about ambivalence, about change talk, and about sustained talk before I move forward? Okay. I think it's just important. I'm sure many of you been, let me try that one more time. Many of you have been in your field for a really long time. And when that happens, sometimes we forget to take that step back and say, oh yeah, I have worked with hundreds or maybe thousands of participants and job seekers. And I haven't thought in a really long time about how vulnerable it is to come into my programming or come into my office or what they are asking to change, right? And so this is just an invitation to take a step back and consider the ambivalence that occurs when you are working with a participant that maybe they're not talking about, but that is absolutely underneath the surface that I invite you to consider inviting into your next meeting with them. Gosh, I know you must be feeling a certain kind of way. On the one hand, you really want this, and on the other hand, it feels really scary, or whatever it is, right? You know, oftentimes the dilemma of your job seekers, and just kind of invite that into the rooms, and your job seeker might say, my employment coach, they know me, right? And that's really going to help with your relationship. Okay, let's keep on moving forward. I am not going to read the slide. This is just a slide for you all to reference going forward, because you will have the recording and have the PowerPoint for you to check in with. Is the way that I'm thinking, is what I'm doing adherent or not adherent to motivational interviewing, or am I? It's just a helpful resource for you to look back on. So motivational interviewing is all about dancing and not wrestling. When we're dancing, although I'm an atrocious dancer, we are dancing with someone, right? We're moving with someone, in step with someone. We're not exactly in the same place as them, right? But we're moving with them versus struggling against them, right? We're collaborating, not confronting someone, right? So motivational interviewing is not following someone. It's not directing someone. It's guiding them, right? Through a combination of acceptance, respect, and partnership. So if we're following our participants or our clients, we're not moving fast enough, because I know you guys are time limited. I know you only have your participants or your job seekers for a certain amount of time, and you are working with a lot of people. So we got to kind of get the train moving a little bit faster. But if you're so far ahead of them and you're saying, come on, catch up, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, they're going to start to feel so dejected. Like, I will never catch up. I will never be able to do this. I cannot move as fast as they are, that there will be attrition and they will quit and give up. So we have to be just a few steps ahead of them, alongside them, and guide them with us through acceptance, partnership, and respect for the process. This might be the 1,000th time we have helped a job seeker. It is their first time. It's really important to remember that. So let's talk about the 4 processes of motivational interviewing. These, like these stairs, build upon each other, right? So first we start with engaging, and then so that's kind of what we've been talking about, and we're going to go into more detail, which is we build that relational foundation, and then we go into focusing. Okay, let's focus on what we want to work on. And then we evoke from them, what are your ideas from changing? We evoke from them a game plan. And then we get into planning. Planning is the thing that you already know how to do, so I don't talk about it much, which is providing with them the support services that you do to help them achieve their goals in your program. But in order for you to be as successful as possible in that, we have to build up the engaging, focusing, and evoking aspects of motivational interviewing before you give your excellent professional acumen to them. So let's talk about engaging. That's that relationship foundation, right? So it's that empathetic listening. Yes, this is hard. This is scary. This is challenging. And you found your way in here, by the way. It's striving to understand their perspective fully, right? So going back to that example of my client who wants to quit smoking, not me making assumptions about why they want to quit or why they should quit, but understanding from them what their goals are. It's really person-centered. So not making assumptions, being really curious about this individual moment in this moment in time. It's avoiding the writing reflex. We're going to get into detail about what that writing reflex is in a moment. And it's normalizing ambivalence. Yes, there's both reasons to do this program and reasons not to do this program. There's reasons to work with me and reasons not to work with me. I'm going to normalize that. We're not going to pretend like there's not. But in the end of the day, the reasons to do it is more towards your values. And that's what motivational interviewing does. It really helps resolve that ambivalence. It normalizes it and then helps you resolve it. So let's talk about that relationship foundation and creating safety in engaging someone. From a show of hands, and you can use your hand raising function, who here works with clients either virtually or by phone? Or is everyone doing in-person work? Okay, we've got a few raised hands. Okay, so it looks like a little bit of a mix. Occasionally, it says Elizabeth, Amanda, and Lindsay. Yeah. So particularly, okay, more people are raising their hands, particularly when we're working with folks remotely, it's really important to create psychological safety because we're not in the same room as someone, right? So psychological safety is being able to do all of these things on these lists, to admit errors, ask for clarification, disagree, give and receive feedback, and raise concerns and issues, right? So I don't know about you, but when I went to work on, gosh, what was it? March 10th, 2020, something like that. I all of a sudden created a makeshift office in my home, and I had never done Zoom therapy before. I'd never worked with clients before, and there was a really steep learning curve for me. All of a sudden, I wasn't in a room with clients. They weren't walking into the room with me. When a client physically walks in, and this is my office behind me, when a client physically walks into my office, there's a few things that they see. They see that my office door is closed and that there's a sound machine outside of it. They see that we're the only two people in this room. They see that when I'm looking down, I'm not on my phone. I'm actually writing a note down, right? They see that I'm, paying attention to them. They know what I'm doing with my hands. With Zoom, we don't have any of that, right? So we need to create psychological safety. We need to create safety in the era of Zoom or of phone. So what I had to learn and I didn't do any of this at the beginning of the pandemic, and I slowly learned, what I had to learn was to say to my clients on Zoom, hey, just to let you know, my phone is on silent. I don't look at my phone during our sessions. My office door is closed and there's a sound machine outside and no one else is in here. If you see me looking down, it's because I'm taking notes. If at any time you would like to see what I've written on my clipboard, feel free to let me know and I'm happy to hold it up to the screen. Just to let you know, everything else on my computer is silenced, and so I'm not going to have any notifications popping up. I ask that you do the same. Is there anyone in your house who might be listening to our session right now? Are there any topics that are off limits? Oh, your kids are coming home at a certain time. Please give me the signal when they're coming home so that we can take a pause for a moment. I see you have headphones on. Can you tell me about that? We need to make all of the things that we would normally see in an office really known in the era of Zoom, because that creates a lot of safety, right? And so for some of my clients, we had to have the conversation, oh gosh, yeah, you and your roommates are working from home together. Could you go in your car? Could we do a walk and talk, right? In order to create more safety. So I would like to practice this, just because this is one of those small ways, this is one of those 30-second conversations that you can have with your participants, that if you can get that psychological safety, you are more likely and orient them to your space and orient them to what they can and can't expect from you. They are much more likely to trust you and be vulnerable with you and be open to you if you have the respect of this 30-second conversation. Now, some of you, I've noticed on camera, are in an office and people can hear you, and that's okay. Because of HIPAA, I have a lot of privacy that I know doesn't matter for a lot of your roles, right? So you might say, hey, I want to let you know that you're on speakerphone so I can type at the same time. If you want me to take you off of speakerphone and pick up the phone, please let me know. If you need me to step into a conference room, I'm happy to do so. You might hear my dog barking in the background. I promise that they're okay. They're just really friendly with the Amazon driver, right? Whatever it is. So I would like for us to practice this. So what I'm going to do is we're going to get folks back into breakout rooms, and you're going to orient to your place. You're going to create some safety. Is there anything that's off limits here? Is there anything that you don't want to talk about? And set expectations. Just to let you know, I'm in an open office. Other people can hear you. So if you would like for me to take you off speakerphone, please let me know. And ask the question, is there anything else that you'd like that would be helpful for you to know before we get started? So you're going to go into breakout rooms of probably 3 or 4 people. And for about 5 minutes, I want everyone to go around and orient the other people in the breakout rooms to your space and practice this as if you are talking to a new client or a new participant over Zoom. What questions do you have? Does this make sense to everyone? Great. Okay. So you should be getting an invite to go into a break. So in 4 groups, what was that like for folks? What did you notice? Are you already doing this with your participants when you're meeting virtually? What are your thoughts?
I hate to be that person that always goes first, but the silence was killing me.
Yeah, it's okay.
So we talked about that none of us really do virtual
Okay.
things, but we do a lot of phone calls.
Mhm.
And so we talked about how we hadn't really thought about telling them about the space you're in. I mean, we have told them, like, yes, you're on speakerphone, but not so much that that I'm alone in an office, or I have a noise machine, or I'm on headphones. But yeah, so we hadn't really thought of that before. So that is something we're like, that may help them feel more comfortable. And then we do kind of talk about like setting their, like, sometimes we have to talk to them. We really have to dig into their lives a bit and kind of explaining to them that the more open they are with us, the more we can figure out how to help them and what their needs are. So we all said we kind of try to set that safe space, but hadn't really ever thought about describing where we were talking to them from. So that's a good idea.
Thanks, Corey. Yeah, it's one of those very small things that I do think makes a big difference, right? It's akin to this. Let's say that I'm having a very vulnerable conversation with my husband, and I'm like, yeah, that's great. And he's trying to tell me about how he wants to look for a new job, but he wants to make sure that I'm supportive of it. I'm like, yeah, honey, sounds great. Versus he comes in the room and he says, hey, can I talk to you about something? And I say, yes, let me put my phone down. I'm with you.
That's another thing we talked about too. Being on the phone, we tell them I am taking notes. So if I'm not talking, and I always tell people I can't write and talk at the same time. So if there's dead air, that's just me finishing up my notes. So
beautiful. Yeah, it really is. It's just those little things that, again, just build up that foundation of trust of, wow, I'm not just another person on their schedule, right? Or another box to check. Oh, this person really, like you said, Corey, you're digging in, really wants to hear my story, really wants to understand me so that they can help me. So thank you for that. What about in other breakout rooms? What did you notice? Are you already doing this? What might you do differently or the same?
Well, for myself, I know that I wish I had a more of an office space to be private, and so people knew that. But I think in some environments where we're like in ours, we have several people in one large room. conducting initial interviews, that it's not just up to me, but it's up to everybody else to buy into the idea that, hey, we need to provide a safe space for people. So I think, whatever the team you work with, if that's the environment you work in, that it's a team effort.
Yes. And I'm sorry, who is speaking? I'm not able to see.
This is Paul.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Yes. So I love what you said. It has to be a team effort. And the word that was coming into my brain as you were speaking was consent. Both consent of within your team of, hey, if we need a private space, can we reserve a conference room? And also consent of you telling your participants, just to let you know, I am in a conference room with other people, so you may hear voices in the background. That consent of your participant knowing that, right? And so there is that consent aspect. So, but I do want to acknowledge, there are some systemic barriers to that. Sometimes not everyone has a private office with a closed door. With that being said, it's really important for you to let your participant know that that's the environment that they're speaking in.
Yeah. Well, they know because it's not being done over the phone. It's being done in person.
It's being done in person. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right. So they do have those in-person cues.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a space in your office that you could go for a private conversation? Could you step into a conference room?
Yeah. And I think if they needed to, we could find a space like that.
Great.
If someone said, I'm sorry, I don't feel comfortable doing this here, we could find that, but yeah.
It's extra effort.
It doesn't happen very often.
Sure. Yeah. But even giving that option, right, might be really important, even if our clients don't take it. Hey, just so you know, right? I mean, when your client, I know when my participants are starting to get uncomfortable, they look from side to side, they kind of shift around a little bit. Even if you're getting those nonverbal cues, if you're able to say, hey, just so you know, if you want to pop into a conference room and we can chat about this, I'm happy to find that. Doesn't mean they're going to take us up on it, but it does allow us to, again, be their special someone and have them say, gosh, this person really cares about my privacy. They really care that I'm talking about something vulnerable right now.
Yeah. And it definitely, even if they wouldn't take advantage of it, it just helps build rapport. And so you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. What about from others? Okay. So this is something that I encourage you to just let marinate, that this might be different from participant to participant or client to client of what you share and how you orient them. But this is a really quick and simple way, an effective way to gain some of that trust, to really build that relational foundation, that engaging foundation. Like Paul said, they're probably not going to take you up on that private conference room, but the fact that you offered it matters. You might think, okay, I'm wasting 30 seconds of airtime telling them that, if I'm taking notes, if I'm quiet, I'm taking notes, but that kind of stuff that matters. It's that human to human, when we can, breaking down that power dynamic just a little bit, that really makes a difference. So I just encourage you to think about, in your specific role, in your specific situation or scenario, how you might want to set the scene for psychological safety that could really have an impact on your work with clients together. Okay, so let's talk about that writing reflex that I teased earlier. When it comes to making people change, a lot of things can work. We can beg, we can plead, we can reason, we can bargain, we can bribe, we can threaten, we can ask and hope and pray. And at what cost? Look, if I want my client to change one thing one time, I can throw everything at it. And sometimes we can even, if we're working in a social service agency, we can say, oh, I'll give you an extra bus pass, or I'll help you out with this thing, right? And what does that usually lead to? Them changing one time and not doing it again. Burnout, resentment, a conversation from our supervisor maybe, right? We can get people to change by doing some of these things, but it has a cost associated with it, right? I want to talk about this thing called the writing reflex, The writing reflex is an irresistible desire to solve a perceived problem. Everyone in this Zoom room today is a helper. You want your clients and your participants to succeed. You are a good person who cares about people having the opportunities and the life that they deserve. With that comes this irresistible desire to solve a perceived problem. I am also guilty as charged of that. Okay. Just want to put that out there. We're all human here. We're all trying to help. And it's when we try to get ahead of ourselves and solve problems for our clients before they try to solve them for themselves. Like we said, actually, I want to just pause for a second. I want to ask everyone to throw into the chat, how long do you have to work with your participants? Is it a year? Is it 4 meetings? If you could just type into the chat quickly, how long do you get to work with people? Is it 1 session and then you're done? Okay, anywhere from a few months to a few years, great. Months to years. Yep, graduating or dropping off. Could be a year or more. Okay. So it looks like the max is a few years, which is great. Crystal says about 3 months minimally, but typically longer. So this is great. So you have some time to work with them, but at the end of the day, you're not saying, and I will be your employment coach for the rest of your life. The goal is to set them free at some point and they don't need you. It's kind of a bad business model of us therapists and helpers, right? Is that we know we've succeeded when we're no longer needed. But the good thing is, we'll always have a job. But yeah, it's, so when we solve problems for our clients without letting them solve them first, it feels really good for us because we care about our clients and we're giving them warm fuzzies and, it's nice to help and be a problem solver. But at the end of the day, if we only have them for a few months to a few years, what happens when they're no longer working with us? What happens if we don't see them for another few weeks? Oh, well, now it's getting delayed another few weeks, right? So when we engage in the writing reflex, it's usually because we care. And we have to practice that restraint to not solve their problems for them and let them try to solve them first and ask for their own ideas for solving it and elicit from them before we step in and give our own advice. This is hard and you can do it. So let's see this in action. Here's a case study. John, 40, began working with your employment program and really came in highly motivated. He entered in the program looking for stable housing and employment support. One of his main motivators is to have opportunities to help support his mother and 2 daughters. He attended his first 3 meetings with you, his case manager, but in the last 2 weeks, he's either been 30 minutes late or not shown up at all. So this is John. So let's see the writing reflex. It can show up in a few different ways. We can either give them insight. If we just make him see the truth, then he'll change. We can give him knowledge. We can make him know enough. We can educate him. We can give him skills, do a skills workshop. We love skills workshops, right? Or we can kind of, if we're feeling burnt out and kind of tired, we can give him hell. So let's see this in action with John. John, you came in here so motivated. It seems like you're self-sabotaging by not coming to our meetings. These are red flags. Maybe if we just give him some insight, right? He's a smart guy. If we could just help him see it in a different way. Knowledge. John, you won't be able to take care of your girls if you can't get a job, and this program will help open a lot of employment doors for you. Skills. John, the best thing to always do is to tell us up front if you're not going to make it to our meeting. We also should probably discuss what's a reasonable thing to miss a meeting for. And if we're feeling really tired and burnt out, we give him hell. John, you're not even using this program effectively. I wonder if you even care, or maybe all you care about is the here and now and not your future. This is not going to help your relationship with your daughters. No one would actually do that 4th thing, but we use it for the dramatic effect, right? So the question that I always get is, so I have to talk to John about this? Yes, you do have to talk to John about this. motivational interviewing doesn't mean we never give advice. It doesn't mean we never give insight or knowledge or skills or have hard conversations. It means that before we do any of this, we sit with John and we seek from him through our relational foundation. Hey, John, we've missed you over the past couple of weeks. What's been going on? Okay, now we can start to understand. I wonder what you might think you could do differently to get here. What do you think? What do you think is going on here, right? We elicit from him first before we come in with our insight, our knowledge, and our skills. See whether he can solve the problem for himself first, build up that self-efficacy before we come in and say, I know how to solve that problem for you. Again, it's done with the best of intentions. You will do the writing reflex again. I will do the writing reflex again because I care and I want my clients to succeed. And it's like, you know, my 2-year-old son, and he's learning how to take his shoes off right now. And it takes him forever. Bless him, right? But if I keep on letting him try to do it, even though it takes him forever, and I'm standing there saying, okay, you're going to figure it out. You're going to figure it out. You've got this, baby boy, right? Eventually, he's going to learn how to take his shoes off by himself, and it's going to be very quick and very seamless. And we have to sit with the discomfort of not solving it for him, for them, so that they can figure it out themselves. And if they ask, yes, then we can give some insight, then we can give skills and knowledge, but first, let them try to solve for themselves. Does anyone have any questions about this? This can feel really uncomfortable for some people at times. Does anyone have any questions or comments or concerns about the writing reflex and resisting that? Okay, let's keep moving. So once we've built that relational engaging foundation, where this person's special someone, then we move into focusing. Focusing is really all about guiding the participant towards engaging with your programming more effectively. It's helping the individual identify a target area that they're ambivalent about. And the target area has to be important to the participant, even if it's not important to you. And it has to be being really clear about what the target area is once it's identified. So let's see this in action. One way to focus is to do an activity called agenda setting or mapping. It's collaborative, it sets limits and boundaries, it's really conversational, and it clarifies readiness and goals of basically where your participant is at. So let's see this in action. You have someone come in and you say, okay, we have 6 months together. In the next 6 months, what would you like to look different in your life? And they say, well, I really want to meet my savings goal because, you know, I've been kind of couch surfing and living in different people's houses. And, you know, I need to save in order to find stable housing. In order to do that, I really got to get a full-time job. That's why I'm with you. I really want you to help me. I need to be in your programming. I need to get full-time work. Again, I got to get that stable housing. It's really chaotic. I kind of never know where I'm going to sleep. It's hard because nothing is stable. I really want to reconnect with my family. I feel like I've lost touch with them over the last couple of years in the pandemic, and especially with moving around so much. And I'd really like to build back a relationship with them. I'm lonely. I want to get a girlfriend. I want to have a relationship. I really want that. I see other people in love and it looks so nice. And then you always leave one last circle. And you just say, is there anything I'm missing? What else would you like to, talk about? You just leave that there. If there's anything else you think about, we'll fill that circle in. And then you say, where would you like to start? And this client says, I want to get a girlfriend. And you slink down in your chair. When you take a couple of deep breaths, and you notice that steam might be coming out of your ears, but it's not, because you took this training and you are going to be motivational interviewing adherent. And this is not going to ruffle your feathers the way that it could, maybe might, right? And you say, you want to get a girlfriend? Tell me about that. And they say, yeah, I don't need anything crazy. I would just love to come home on a Friday night and order a pizza and watch a movie and sit on the couch and just connect with somebody. I've been feeling so lonely and I just want a partner. And you say, wow, that's beautiful. You deserve that. I want that for you too. Sounds really nice. Everybody deserves that. And I want that for you. I love that picture that you just painted of staying in on a Friday night, ordering a pizza, watching a movie. Here's the thing, in order for you to get that, you might need an apartment to be in, like a stable apartment, and not be couch surfing. And when you go to order that pizza, we don't want it to break the bank, right? We want for it to not be a stressful thing when you order that pizza financially and when you order that movie, when you pay for your Netflix subscription, whatever. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to talk about how some of these other things, like a full-time job, a savings goal, and stable housing, can contribute to your goal of getting a girlfriend. Do you see what we did there? It would have been very easy and tempting for literal steam to come out of my ears and for me to say, are you on Mars? The last thing we should be talking about is you getting a girlfriend right now. That is the furthest thing. Don't even say those words for another year, right? Come on, we got to focus on you getting a job. And what does that do? Totally ruins your trust. They feel totally unseen, unheard. All you see me is for needing to get a job. You don't even care about my happiness in other ways. That's not who we are. People get jobs for reasons, right? To live a life, to have connection with family and friends, to gain loved ones and have healthy, meaningful relationships. So we're not going to pretend like that's not part of the equation. And I'm not going to say, you're right. Getting a girlfriend is it. That's the only important thing. And that's the only thing we're going to focus on. No. We're going to weave it together. And when it's hard and when they're struggling and when compliance is low, because our programming is difficult and successful, right? It's difficult for a reason, not just to be difficult, but because it's going to get them the results that they need. That's when we remind them, hey, I know this is really hard. I know you're struggling. And remember that picture of sitting on the couch with your girlfriend in your home with your furniture, ordering your pizza with your loved one? That's the why. That's why we're doing this. So I really invite you to be the person that takes a deep breath and doesn't have steam come out of their ears, or if you do, just cover your ears and don't let them see. and realize that almost always we can connect what seems like an outlandish dream, like getting a girlfriend, to the services that we provide. And that's what agenda mapping can really do, is figuring out their why and helping them connect that to the services that you provide. It doesn't automatically seem like job coaching and getting a girlfriend are connected, but guess what they are? These are all connected things. And you can help them see that. And you can help them in those moments where it's difficult, make that connection of the why they're doing this. Why are they doing this hard work? Why are they going through, the rigor of your program? And we're not making assumptions about it. What questions do we have about agenda mapping before we move forward? Okay. So once we do focusing, we evoke, right? So we're evoking from them, what are their ideas for changing, right? So it's drawing out their own motivation for reasons for changing. It's listening for and recognizing change talk. It's summarizing and reinforcing it when we hear it. And it's avoiding that expert trap, right? Which is that writing reflex. So what is change talk? Again, and change talk is any statement for change. So when you hear change talk, I want you to imagine like alarm bells going off in your head. This is the stuff that I want to hook into. This is the juicy stuff that we want to focus on, that I want you to really tease out and learn more about, right? So what is change talk? How might you hear it? Because we're social worker, because I'm a social worker, I love acronyms, right? It's darn cat, right? So desire, I want to be able to get my own apartment. I want to have a savings account. I want to be able to pay for childcare. Ability, I could probably look that up. I could probably go and print that out. Reasons. There's reasons why they're making the change, right? Because they want to get a girlfriend. They want to have their own apartment. They want to show their parents that they can do it. And then needs, I've got to be able to pay rent. I've got to support my daughter. I've got to do X, Y, and Z thing. So we call this preparatory change talk. This is kind of that dreaming change talk, that getting ready change talk, that, oh yeah, things could be really different if I could. And then CAT, commitment, I will. Activation, I'm ready to do this thing. And taking steps, I'm doing it. So the first two are pretty self-explanatory. The third is taking steps. So I already looked up where this job fair is. I know where I can print out my resume. I have an interview outfit. It's washed, it's clean, right? Here are the things that I'm already doing. Commitment is making a solid commitment towards it. And then activation is I'm ready to do these things. So the opposite of change talk, remember, is sustain talk. So any talk about staying the same. Can't do this. It's too hard. I'm over this, all of the above. That's all sustain talk. So what we're going to do now is I invite you to either unmute yourselves or you can type into the chat. You are going to see a statement inside the drum set. Like, I need to find a place to live. Is this desire, ability, reasons, need, commitment, activation, taking steps, or is this sustain talk, which is statements against change? If we get it wrong, that's okay. We're still learning. We're playing in the sandbox here. We're going to help each other out. So what do we think? I need to find a safe place to live. What do we think this is? Corey's got it. It's need. Yep. Paul, Rachel, perfect. They've got it. It's need. What about this one? I'm definitely going to show up on time tomorrow. Yeah, commitment. They're committing to something. They're saying it out loud. All of the research shows that if we commit to a behavior and we say it out loud, then we are much more likely to do it. I can't figure this out. Rachel's got it. It's sustain talk. So what do we do with sustain talk? We don't fight them on it. No, here's why you can figure this out. Let me tell you all the reasons why, and we're going to talk about this more next week. We are not going to amplify sustain talk. We're not going to get into power struggle with them about why they can. We're going to show them in other ways. We're going to be really strategic about it, but we're going to get to the feeling. I can't figure this out. You're feeling really overwhelmed right now. Yeah, I am feeling really overwhelmed. I don't know how to log on to this portal to figure out this thing to sign up for this. And I forgot my password and I keep on hitting forgot my password, but it's not sending it to me. And I don't know how to do this. Man, you are just feeling so overwhelmed with this whole process. We're going to address the feeling without getting into a power struggle of why they can't figure it out. Because if we can address and support that feeling, then we'll move through it. But we're not going to try to convince them that they're not feeling a certain way. I want to make my family proud. What do we think this is? Desire. Yeah, Paul's got it. This could also be reasons, right? The reason why they're making this change is their family. I looked up the address for the meeting. I can take the bus. Yep, this one is taking steps, right? They already looked something up. They know they can take the bus. They know how to get there. They're already in action mode. If I could help pay my rent, it would really help my relationship with my boyfriend. Yep, this one is reasons. Yep, Sharon and Paul got it. This is really helpful, right? We know this is such good data, right? When we hear change talk, let's say this client or this participant or student comes in, they say, yeah, if I could pay my rent, it would really help my relationship with my boyfriend. What a gold mine piece of data that is to know that their relationship is a big motivator for them. It's really good for info for us to know when they're struggling, when they're having a hard time, maybe when resistance is a little bit higher. That's something that we know is a value for them that we can help remind them of and connect them to help them sustain that behavior change, right? But if we don't listen for that change talk or elicit that change talk, then that's when we can kind of start to lose opportunities to connect with our clients. I want to prove everyone wrong who said I wouldn't make anything of myself. Desire, you got it. Yep, Corey and Rachel got it. I'm over this. It doesn't even matter if I try. Sustain. That's right. Yep. And what are we going to do? We're not going to give that statement more power. We're not going to ignore it, but we're not going to give it more power. We're not going to engage with it in a way that is going to amplify that statement. My daughter is counting on me. I've got to take care of her. Reasons and commitment. Yeah. Probably quit smoking for the next month if that would help me save. Yes, Corey's got it. This one is ability. They're saying that they would be able to do something, probably. Okay, before we move on, what questions do you have about change, about that? Does that feel clear to everyone? Okay, so I'm from the Northeast, so my sarcasm comes out every once in a while, right? Forgive me. So the maybe slightly sarcastic question that might be bubbling in your mind is, okay, so yeah, these are really great, but if my client doesn't come in and say, I could probably do this thing if it would help me save, what do I do? We can elicit change talk, right? It might not always come as naturally or as obviously, but I just wanted you to hear those statements. But if you don't hear it, how do you elicit? How do you bring it out of your participants? So you ask evocative, open-ended questions where the answer will likely be change talk. If you and I are working together in 6 months and your life is much better, what's different? What's the best that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? We ask for the participant to elaborate when change talk emerges. If they say, yeah, that doesn't sound so bad. Oh, tell me more. What doesn't sound so bad about that? Right? We just kind of ask them to elaborate. Tell me more is going to be your best friend here. We always link back to values or goals. Again, that's why we build that relational foundation, right? You wouldn't think that smoking would help a relationship with a boyfriend, but you better believe it if they come in and they say, yeah, you know, my girlfriend hates it when I come home because my hair and my clothes stink, right? After smoking. Really good data for us. We link it back to their values or their goals without making assumptions. We look to the past or to the future. When was the last time in the past that you felt stable in your housing? Oh, what was different in your life then? If in 3 months you knew where you were living for the next year because you had a job that allowed you to pay for rent, what would be different in your life? If you knew you had a paycheck coming in for X number of dollars per week or per month, what could you do differently? Just let them dream a little bit, right? We always ask extremes. What's the best that could happen? What's the worst that could happen if you try this? My favorite quote, and then also stick to status quo. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So if in 6 months, everything is exactly the same in your life, same income, same housing, same behaviors, how would that be for you? Would you be okay with that? Is it possible for things to stay the same, or are they definitely going to change? What would be the same? For a lot of people, this is a really big question for them of, oh my gosh, things can't be the same in 6 months. I cannot keep going like this. Or I have to figure it out in 6 months because I need to figure out new housing, or I need to be able to pay for this, that, and the other thing, right? This is a really big question for a lot of people. So in our last few minutes, Kate, I'm not sure if you have a couple of announcements, but before we get into that, I'm just going to sit in silence for a moment and invite, what questions do folks have? What would you like to know? Is there any clarification that I can provide for you all before we stop for this week? Okay. Well, if you think of anything, please feel free to throw it into the chat, and I will go ahead and turn it over to Kate. I just want to thank everyone for your participation and willingness to be in the breakout rooms and try things out and role play a little bit. And I'm really looking forward to next week.
Fantastic. Julia, thank you so much for this really engaging session. This has been really great to learn alongside this group this morning. So I do want to just remind folks that we will be meeting at the same time next Wednesday. So we will see y'all from 10 to noon next Wednesday. Melina has sent out the link to the shared resources, which includes a PDF of the slide deck, as well as that glossary of key terms. So if that's something that's helpful for you to kind of have alongside you as we go through next week's session, you've got that in the chat here as well as in your emails. And that is all that we've got for folks today. Kirsten, do you have anything else that you want to add before we close out?
No, I think that's it. Everybody is already registered for next Wednesday, so it'll be the same group of people. If you aren't able to attend next Wednesday, I would just ask that you unregister, because we could potentially have somebody else who could register who might be able to attend, and I'm happy to still send you the recording. So if you know something came up next Wednesday that you're not able to attend anymore, but you want the recording, I would just ask that you unregister so that way someone else could register, since spots are limited. And then you can just shoot me an email and I'll make sure that you still get the recording. And here's my email. I'll put that in the chat. And Paul said, will you make the recording available to all of us? Yes, we will, because the recording does not include the breakouts. So it's just the information. And so, yes, the recording will be up on our website within about 48 working business hours, and then it'll be sent out in a follow-up email tomorrow as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Kirsten, and thank you again, Julia. This has been a really great session, and we'll see folks next week.
Thank you. Looking forward to next week, everyone.
Thank you.